What do we do when we lose hope, but still inside we have a little bit of hope? How can we overcome those fears?
It's so interesting to try to answer these without a lot of context.
I know. But I have a compassion for the question, for the person that asked it, because I feel it.
Something that I have learned that there is no shortage of in heaven is truth, hope, and love. All of those things are in abundance. And I believe that when the word talks about God giving us good gifts, I don't think the material things are necessarily the truest context of God's heart reflected in that verse. I think it's those three things that God desires so deeply to give us: truth, hope, and love his way. Yeah. And so I would say ask him for those things. You know, this human vessel is a flawed one, and we get empty sometimes, and that's okay. But we have a spirit inside of us that belongs somewhere else, that is very far from home, but yet connected there. Our spirit is both here and seated at the right hand of God Almighty at the same time. And because it's seated at the right hand, it means it is under the covering of God's authority and under the covering of God's provision. And what happens is your spirit intercedes to the Father, who's at your left side, and says, hey, this flawed human vessel, this poor, weary soul needs some hope and needs some love right now. And God's going to give it to your spirit. But a lot of times where we mess up is we don't allow our spirit to minister to our soul. That is what's happening. Your spirit is loving on and repairing and healing and ministering to your soul. But a lot of times we cut that off because our flesh kind of chimes in, and there is this tempting desire towards hopelessness, towards victimhood. I would say I've faced a lot of temptations in my life, right? I'm a man just like anybody else. I've faced a lot of temptations. The most potent temptation I've ever faced is the temptation of feeling sorry for myself. It is so concentrated, and we don't want to talk about that because nobody really mentions it, but it's so true. There is this little part of us that is so tempted by feeling sorry for ourselves, and that will keep you from allowing your spirit to minister to your soul. And the beautiful part is when as your soul becomes sanctified, you build habits, you build practices that then nourish your flesh. So your body becomes healthier, which makes it easier for your soul to be sanctified. And then your spirit is obviously thriving because it's just pouring and receiving and pouring and receiving. And this is this well-functioning vessel. But I would see hopelessness as an opportunity not to fall into the temptation of feeling like a victim, but to fall into God's arms and receive. Because the more you receive, the more you can give, the more healthy you become overall as a vessel.
I'm so excited. My Feminine Daily Journal Guide is available now on Amazon. So please go and get yours. I don't think you're going to be disappointed. It has been a journal practice that has really blessed my life, and I want to share it with you as well. Yeah. And just to add one thought to that, is that hopelessness is, in my experience, a magnification of the current moment. And it's like that is zoomed in to full focus, and it's losing sight of the bigger picture. Right. And so when you are feeling that hopelessness because of the circumstances you're currently in, I would just ask you to just like pray and ask the Lord to help you zoom back out and look at the broad picture of yourself in the midst of eternity, not in the midst of this one moment. And I feel like hope can rise when it includes the presence and the goodness of God over your life. I think that hope can rise in that space. And when we're zoomed in on the current moment, there's not sometimes enough room for hope in our suffering or our current experience that is hard. And that's where I feel like we can give into that victim mentality and that hopelessness. So that's my thought to add to that.
That's beautiful.
Thank you for watching this clip from the Live Abundantly podcast. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to watch the full-length podcast in the link below. Make sure that you subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you can be notified every time we post a new video. And finally, please be sure to visit my website and sign up for the newsletter. You're going to receive exclusive offers and free content that's going to help you to live abundantly.